Hello and welcome to the Advocator Show. I am your host for today, Henry T. Quarles Jr. The Advocator Show is designed to bring awareness to the community about issues that affect society as a whole, as well as to highlight local businesses and talent coming in and out of the Western New York area. Our topic for today is racism, and we have two guests here with us on today, Joe Masha, and we also have Willie Green, and we'll be talking to them right after this.
I filed suit against the 5 appointed commissioners.
What's the matter with you?
Huh?
What's the matter with you?
Well, they were appointed wrong. They were appointed and they were confirmed by the Common Council without their due diligence in them vetting the process. So f them too.
I get you for discrimination.
They can get me for whatever they want.
That's why you're going after Seaman.
Exactly. Siemens first, so they can't say it's discrimination.
What about the mayor?
He's part of it. They're his appointees. They're all part of his group.
What is he?
He's a
What is he?
So who did you hear that from about the mayor leaving in May?
Faz.
Does he know?
What is he?
Him? He's a camel jockey.
What's Darius?
Oh, another.
What's Leonard Williams? What's Mike Seaman?
He's a.
What's Dawn Sanders?
Oh, she's a fucking dumb nigga.
What is she doing with the? What's she doing with the card?
You see her girlfriend Crystal Peoples is getting her girlfriend Collins as the new chancellor. Bob Bennett is out. Them niggers take over, man. Hey, Hesty says whatever Crystal Peoples wants. So, fuck man, I told you. Once they get in power, forget about it. Forget it. They want it all.
And welcome back to the Advocator Show. Once again, I am your host for today, Henry T. Quarles Jr., and our subject or our topic for today is racism. So, Joe, how you doing?
Great, thank you, Henry, and thank you for having me in the show today.
No problem. And Willie, how you doing, bro?
I'm doing pretty fair.
All
pretty
right.
fair. Having
All
a good
right.
day.
Good,
Thank you
good.
too.
Me and Willie shared a lot of dialogue earlier, so we're going to share some of that dialogue right now. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask a question to you, Joe. And the question is, Joe, is that describe what led you up to coming on the show today to tell your story on the Advocate Show.
Well, I think what happened, Henry, and I think over the past week and a half or so, you know, there's been some media attention, and one of the racist words that I made during a private conversation. Mm-hmm. And I think that, you know, the people really have to know how I feel about it, mm-hmm. what my feelings are, and mm-hmm. how I want to move forward from here.
Okay, all right. Willie?
I'm here as a guest here today, and I have some questions that I would like to ask Joe too, mm-hmm. and to say to the public, you know, it might be questions that someone out there might want to ask, mm-hmm. you know, or want to know. So that's my reason for being here.
Okay.
One of them.
What was said? Okay, which is very well known, which is very well documented. What was said?
Well,
what do you feel was taken out of context, if it was taken out of context at all?
Well, some of the things that were said, mm-hmm. Again, in a private conversation, mm-hmm. And I don't think that anybody who sits today in this world knows mm-hmm. that most everything is in private. Okay, right. Now, the person I had this conversation with I've known him since he was 10 years old, almost like a son to me. Mm-hmm. So, you know, you feel comfortable talking about certain things, politics, sports, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. We got on the subject of some of the leadership and a couple of things have been happening with the Buffalo Municipal Housing Authority, mm-hmm. which I'm a commissioner of. Mm-hmm. And naturally, the subject led towards some individuals that were leaders in the community. Mm-hmm. And to be honest with you, it was masterfully done. It was almost like a military operation. Mm-hmm. And again, the word I used was not. It was vile. It was vile. It was indefensible. Mm-hmm. The word was said. It was said about leadership, and it was said leadership in the community, and basically it was said because at the time, I've been a commissioner now for 9 years, and at the time, I felt that the individuals who I were talking to weren't giving enough attention to the community that I represent.
So you were angry?
I was angry.
Angry about what was going on, thought maybe it was
Angry
a
what
status
was
quo
going
type
on.
situation, and
Yeah.
certain things weren't being done or being done as swiftly or quickly as you thought they should be done.
Well, yeah, especially in the community that I represent. You know, it's poor people, and you're always advocating, which is a great name for the show. I'm glad I'm here today, for those people, and so you know, Henry, I did not mention the names of the people. The names were mentioned, and I said the word that again is indefensible. And I'm not here to defend the word. I just like people to know, though, the word was used for several people, and not all of them were of the African American.
So someone shouldn't think that you believe that African Americans are inferior.
No, of course not. Listen, I was brought up in the 50s, 60s, when certain words were used about all races, all colors, and nationalities. I mean, it's a fact. I've tried to get away from that as much as I could in my adult life after marrying. You know, this is something I use because I'm in the community a lot, and in the past 9 years, you know, almost every day.
Okay.
So, you know, you're sensitive to how people feel, and I've apologized, and I'm you know, trying to mend and repent for that, and as Willie might be able to attest to, you know, I've gone to, you know, some of the churches. I've been here giving a couple of interviews to a couple of other radio shows. So, you know, it's a healing process for me. And it's also a teaching process. And I think what we need to bring out of this is a dialogue.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this: Do you feel as though in all of this that you were set up, or there was a setup in some form or fashion?
Well, you know what? That's going to come out, and the people do have an explanation due on the timing of it, and the production and the distribution, and that will be, you know.
Because I mean, not to interrupt you, but we do live in a society where things are videotaped often. There's cameras everywhere. There's audio everywhere. Even back in the 60s, some of our great leaders, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, were audio taped constantly. You know, Elvis Presley was videotaped secretly. You know, so these things were going on in the 60s when we didn't have the technology that we have today.
Right.
So in some kind of form of fashion, because of who you are and the office that you're running for and the position that you hold, wouldn't you think or be cautious of the fact that there is going to be this audio and it's video because of the technology?
There's certain places you're cautious, okay? One of the places you're not cautious is riding in a vehicle, working at the time, with somebody that I've known for almost 35 years, you know, and the conversation prior to that, which wasn't taped, was a little different. You know, I mean, it wasn't, a lot of this wasn't coming from me. Again, I'm not trying to deflect it. I'm not trying to make excuses for it. I've been, Henry, I've been on television. I've been on a newspaper. I haven't backed away from the comment and the apology. And that's why I'm still out talking about this, because I feel we need to start now opening up a dialogue. The most important thing is a learning lesson, okay? A learning lesson for me, definitely, because, you know, you don't realize the hurt something causes until it comes out. So you need now, we have an opportunity here. And the opportunity is not only to talk about racism, it's also talk about opportunities for the poor, housing, different issues that fall into this racism category. You know, and I think that's now, you know, it's my mission, okay, to move forward, and let's talk about the racism issue. It hasn't been discussed quite a bit in the community. I mean, let's face it, it's something that everybody wants to put in the closet. Nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody wants to touch it.
Let me interject. The N-word. We already know, you know, how poisonous this word is towards African Americans from other races, and of course us using it within our own race. Had you ever, in that context, used the N-word before? Had you ever used it loosely or anything to that effect?
Henry, I'm 70 years old, And I said I was brought up in the 50s and the 60s. I'm sure back then, you know, I don't keep a record back then of saying it. But, you know, I've also talked about other nationalities the same way. You know, when someone gets you mad, I'm sure, you know, the Polish nationality or the Irish nationality, German, we've said words that we would regret after we said it. Back then, it was almost commonplace.
Okay.
You know, but now, you know, we've come to a place of political correctness. And my daughter, who's 43 years old, told my wife, she said, Mom, I've never heard Dad say that word. Now that's 43 years. And I've been married 47.
Okay.
And my wife definitely is, you know, not only embarrassed, but saddened by this. And she said the same thing. Where did this come from?
Well, earlier you were talking about that you used to be in the military, that you
Yes.
are a veteran.
Yes.
Okay, so of course you've dealt with all kinds of different races being in the military. Okay, so this isn't something that, how can I say, you just came up with, or it just, you know what I'm saying? You have dealt with other races, other colors, other
Sure.
nationalities. Being in, were you a veteran of a war, Vietnam War, or?
No, it was Vietnam era,
Okay.
but I never went overseas.
Okay. So you've dealt with, and of course, in the position that you're in the city, you've dealt with African Americans before. So it's not a situation of,
Sure.
I'm just thrust into the situation and what have you. Correct?
Yes. But you know, you mentioned something interesting. And I know you were in the military.
Yes, sir.
It seemed at the time when I was in the military was the early 60s, 62, 3, 4. It was almost like the military perpetuated that racism. I was in the South well, shouldn't say the South. I was in Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri.
So was I.
We're engineers.
Yes, sir. Engineers.
Okay, now we have something in common.
Yes,
so
we
you
do.
know where it is.
Yes, sir.
And at that time, you know, a lot of the recruits were from the South. And the drill sergeants sometimes put an African American as a platoon leader. And it didn't go over very well with some of the people who were from the South at the time. And it was interesting to me being from the North because, you know, I mean, I never saw that face to face in that context where, you know, it was actually used in a negative way to get something out of other recruits. So it's interesting you said that because and I, you know, again, first witness to that. You know, I mean, being from the Northeast, you know, we were from the Northeast, and seeing something from the South was.
That was actually some of, not to cut you off, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
but that was some of my experiences in the military as well. I was actually the only kid there from the North when I went through basic training, so
Crazy stuff.
it was an education. Let me come over here to Willie Green real quick, man. Good to have you here.
Good to be here. Good to
You
be
know,
here.
and let's talk a little bit about this subject because you know a lot of this firsthand because you know
Right.
Joe.
I'm sort of in the midst of the waters. One of my main concerns was when I heard this, I talked to Joe on the phone. He apologized. He said what he had to say. We talked about the issues and what led up to the word. I've been out on the road with Joe. I've introduced him to people in the community, and we've had dialogue. And once he tells a story and the situation gets out, things change. Once you get to know somebody across the line and get to know the person, it's a whole different ball game. And basically that's what he's been doing. He's been going out door to door. He's been apologizing to people. A lot of times we get ourselves in a situation or things come about and we have to atone for them. I've accepted his apology. It's up to everyone else to, as an individual, to accept his apology or listen to his story.
Why do you accept his apology? I mean, because what I'm asking is basically there's going to be other people who are going to ask these questions
why.
who are watching.
Because
why do you accept his apology?
I've listened to his story and his accountability. I've met the man. I didn't know him. I met the man before I met the man. I had situation and I've called and a man named Joe Masha handled the situation for me in municipal housing. I came upon him helping a young lady that was getting evicted, and he don't even know today that I was there, and he was helping her. I asked other people about it, about Joe Masha, and I got stories from them about this man. And then one day, I worked with Stop the Violence Coalition, and one day I was introduced to him. And like I said, I met the man before I met the man. In 5 different incidents, it was Joe Masha helping people of color. So I didn't judge him by the color of his skin. I judged him by the content of his character. So to get to know Joe Master, once you know the man, once you know the history, and you see what's going on and carrying on, you will. It will change your thought.
So there's a long history of helping African Americans, helping African Americans within the community, and of course in the Buffalo Municipal Housing Authority.
Right. And even when I came upon people who were saying, you know what, they was about to raise our rent. If it wasn't for Joe, we'd have got our rent raised. You know what I'm saying? These people didn't know me from a can of paint.
This whole issue, you know, when the time presents itself, people will see that, you know, this is an opportunity for someone to take all the attention from the real issue and putting it on something that, you know, was said, okay, and in a bad way. Again, we're not trying to deflect it, but you know, the easiest thing for people to do is take something and say, okay, let's make this guy the problem, okay. Now, anybody who knows me with housing, yes. The residents had a meeting yesterday and, you know, asked that I resign, and I got two things to say about that. First of all, the housing authority itself is in financial issues. They have some major problems. The residents who live there depend on the housing authority for funding, okay, to do their programs. So this jurisdiction-wide resident council is put in a dilemma. What do they do? Here we get our funding from the housing authority, or do we say, you know, stick with the housing authority and say, hey, maybe we should get rid of this guy? You know, you know, all my points have ever been is my advocacy for the people that I represent. I've gotten in trouble for it. I've been to court 5 times. The housing authorities tried to get rid of me 5 times. Luckily, it's been Joe 5 and the housing authority 0. But I started to bring out and make transparent some things that they don't want to bring out and make transparent. One of them is about the obscene amount of money that the housing authority is spending on legal fees that should be going to the residents. Okay, so once that happens and you start making noise about powerful people, you know, they're gonna come after you. And I expected some kind of repercussions, honestly, Henry, when I started this campaign, but to this extent and this magnitude, I don't think anybody expected this, you know what I mean? Especially where it came from, you know. So I still feel those people need representation. I've been getting calls as soon as this morning. Somebody called me whose rent was being raised. She got an eviction notice. Now, let me tell you, how do you get an eviction notice if your income goes down and they want to raise your rent? How does that happen? Okay, so now I have to go and help this lady because she doesn't know where to go to. The housing authority management is always adversarial with the residents. They don't connect. So what I'm always trying to do is do what I can to help the residents get out of situations such as this.
Do you feel now, because of what's going on and your work with the housing authority is well documented, okay? But do you feel as though now with this particular situation with you running for political office, now you got to kind of watch your mouth? You know what I'm saying? Now you
Henry, you know
watch
what?
who you have around you.
You know what? Again, this was a great learning lesson for me. Okay. And I'm hoping that learning lesson now will reflect in a teaching lesson. And let's go out and open up a dialogue about this. You know, again, nobody wants to, you know, Joe said something, let's put it away for another 200 years. We can't do that.
So you're not running from nothing?
I can't. Let me ask you a question, Henry. You're a military man. Who would you rather be in the foxhole with? The guy who stays and fights or the guy who stays and runs?
The guy who fights.
Okay. And that's what I want to do. I want to fight because, let me tell you, in the situation I'm in, if I don't fight, they're going to come. If I do fight, they're going to come after me. If I don't fight, I'm a coward. I'd rather fight and fight my battle and let the people decide to be a coward and run.
Are you willing to accept the people's decision? Whatever that decision may be.
Absolutely.
Whatever
the people have an opportunity in September, the primary, to say, okay, you know what, this guy said a word, but you know what, let's go with what he stands for and who's going to really fight for us. You've got
because technically you are representing the African American community. I mean, in a lot of different ways.
No, I'm hoping he's representing the community, not the African American community. I'm hoping he's going in there and the community as a whole.
To a certain extent, you understand what I'm saying? Because of the fact that When it comes to, I've lived in
Right.
BMHA.
Right.
So, and most of us have family in BMHA.
Right.
And I think that when we talk about, well, who's the advocator
Right.
for us down at BMHA?
Okay. It's Joe.
Exactly. You see what
It's
I'm saying?
Joe.
So,
And he's hopefully he's going to continue to do that. And then like I say, just like that word said, advocator, Joe should be advocating for everybody.
Joe, you were talking about a lot of things. Actually, Willie, you were talking about a lot of things that Joe had done in the community, and I just want you to continue on that real quick.
Yes, like I said, I have expectations, and my expectations is for my community to be built up better, more jobs in the community. I'm hoping that if Joe does get into Fillmore District, that they will get more companies, businesses that come into the community.
Is he the man for the job, though?
You know what? I think.
I put you on the
No,
spot.
no, that's not a spot. I love to be there. I'm right on top of it. I've watched, like I said, I've investigated the man. I've vet him. Some people say I didn't vet him good enough, and I vet him. I've been behind his back. You know, and I told him, I told Joe, I said, you know what? I'm not going to stand beside you. I'm not going to stand in front of you. I'm going to stand beside you. Not in front, not behind, but in front. I meant beside. I would like to see a few things we coincide on: jobs, economic opportunity, businesses in the neighborhood. Hopefully, we can probably try to get in the neighborhood the job readiness program. We're looking at the outsource center down there in Northampton, Northland and Fillmore, which needs help. So it's things, and he brings a lot to the table.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? If you come to the table, you know, everybody wants to eat.
Right.
Am I right?
Right.
Everybody wants to eat, and I want somebody who's going to go in there and fight for me. I want a bulldog.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Joe the Bulldog.
He can do it. He can do it. I mean, he you know what? He got ways of getting things done. He's fighting for people. You know
Is that pressure? Is that a lot of pressure on you? Does that put you in?
You know what?
Because of the office that you're already in, and you're already somewhat doing that work.
Well, I've been in government for 9 years.
Right.
I think, you know, outside of the current councilman, I've got the most government experience. And I think what needs to happen, Henry, and, you know, I say this all the time, and whether people want to believe what I say, I'm hoping they do, is you can't sit behind a desk and expect something to come to you.
Right.
You have to get out there. You have to influence people. You have to give them the opportunity to say, hey, listen, we've got an empty building on the corner of Fillmore and Broadway. It's been empty for a few years. We need to fill that building with something. We've got a empty Kmart on Broadway. We need to make that an incubator. Let's work with people. Let's get people in there. Let's give the African American community, and you know, there's a big Muslim community there too. Let's give them the opportunity to move forward, move up. I've always been an advocator for people moving in a certain direction because, listen, what the man wants is to keep people down, okay? And it's a proven fact. What we want to do is provide the education, the opportunity, and the development to provide jobs for the people in that community that need them. And you know what I always say is the only way to stop a bullet is with a job. We need people to have jobs.
Outside of jobs and outside of opportunity, because of this situation, should there be a level of healing?
I said that right in the beginning of the show. Absolutely. Healing begins here, and it goes out through the community. And I think I've started that healing process already. And I'm hoping now that, you know, the community can say, hey, listen, this guy made a mistake. He said a word that's a nasty word, vile. I understand the way it cuts like, you know, a hot knife through butter. I understand that. And what I want to do, again, is let's talk about it. Let's get a forum. Let's get people together. Let's talk about why it happened, how it happened, and what we can do to improve that relationship between communities.
In the healing process, and I have another question, but I want you to give out your information. In that healing process, people can contact you. People can reach out to you, correct?
Yeah.
So how would people reach out to you and contact you?
I have a Facebook page. It's facebook.com/MASCIA, MASCIA 2015. That's my campaign page. They can contact. I hope they get on the Facebook page, and they'll get a little bit more insight of who I am. They can get in touch with me through the Housing Authority. I'm still a commissioner. And I'm open to everyone. I mean, I've never had a closed door. When you're a commissioner, well, the commissioner that represents people, you're available. You try to make yourself available 24/7. And I'm going to close with one thing. 2 years ago, I just won my 5th election. When I first ran, I said, do I really want another office? There's a lot of stress in this job, okay, because you're constantly helping people, trying to help people, poor people, people that need a house, you know, and a quality of life. You know, that's what we should all have. So I said, you know, I told my wife, I says, God, I says, I don't know if I should run for one more election. And then, you know what? Something told me, Joe, if you don't run, who's going to advocate for the people who need an advocate? There's nobody there, especially in public housing. You know, and that's why I decided to run for this 5th term, and again, lucky enough to win. So hopefully I can be that advocator in a little bit higher office. Councilman of the Fillmore District.
Okay. Well, you got some contact information. I know you're over there at Stop the Violence Coalition.
Yeah, Stop the Violence. Stop the Violence Coalition. I would like to say you can get in touch with us. We have a Facebook page for Stop the Violence Coalition. Also, I would like to say a relationship goes 2 ways. So not only do Joe have to atone and reach out to the community needs to reach out to Joe too, and that's called healing. You know, we ought to come together. Together we stand, divided we fall, and we got to remember what's important for us in our community. You know, if we don't keep our eye on the prize, and we keep our eye over this way, we're gonna miss the prize. We're gonna get blindsided, and haven't we got blindsided enough? Thank you. God bless you.
Definitely. We only have a short time left. What is now your dialogue and your relationship with those people who felt as though you called them that word, and your relationship between them now?
I've reached out to the mayor. I reached out. Actually, the funny thing is, and Willie happened to be there, I did reach out to Reverend Bishop Pridgeon, and we met actually at the Board of Elections. He saw me go in the building. He came by. We talked. He said, Joe, I want to put this behind us. I asked for his hand. I said, please forgive me. I apologize. He says, I have to forgive you as a man of God. He says, but you know what? It's over. Let's put it behind us. We need to move forward. And that's just what I feel. We need to move forward.
We need to move forward. We ran out of time, so we need to move forward. Thank you both for coming out. We really appreciate it. We want to thank our viewing audience for tuning in to the Advocator Show. Make sure you go to the show's website, www.latelucyproductions.com, and we invite the viewers to follow the Advocator Show on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, what have you. Thank you for tuning in. God bless.